Hello friends, we are starting with the lecture series of vector-borne diseases. What do we mean by vector-borne disease? Vector-borne diseases, they result from the infection transmitted to humans by blood-feeding arthropods like mosquitoes, ticks and fleas. Most importantly, we will be discussing the disease which are caused by mosquito bites. We know that these are the species of mosquitoes and these are the infections which can be caused by biting these mosquitoes. Like Aedes aegypti can cause chikungunya, dengue, yellow fever, lymphatic filariasis. Female Anopheles mosquito can transmit malaria and lymphatic filariasis. Culex can transmit Japanese encephalitis, West Nile fever and filariasis. The most important infection for us, like for students of second MBBS, which can be considered as must know disease, you as a doctor of this region, as a medical person of this region, you must be knowing about malaria. Malaria is a very common infection, and so we will be discussing about malaria. The objective is this session is what you must know: clinical features and course of disease, targets of management, classification of drugs which are pertaining to malaria, salient aspects of cheap drugs, recent updates, and management of various types of malaria. We know that malaria is a protozoal disease, type of protozoal disease. Malaria can be, there are 4 species of malaria: Plasmodium vivax, falciparum, oval and malari. But vivax and falciparum are only seen in our country. So we will be focusing on the signs and symptoms of these species. The patient will be presented with central headache. There will be high grade temperature with chills, and the fever subsides with profuse sweating. There will be fatigueness and pain of muscles. The patient may have dry cough. On a patient may have back pain and abdominal pain, and of course nausea and vomiting. On examination, we may find enlarged liver and spleen. On blood examination, if the patient complains with fever with chills, we will go for blood investigation and urine routine micro investigation if we suspect UTI, because the UTI also have the same symptoms: fever with high grade temperature with chills and vomiting. But if patient complains about high grade temperature, body ache, headache, fever with chills, we will go for blood investigation. In blood especially, we will see for PS peripheral smear for malarial parasite, and it shows positive. That means patient is having malaria. Patient will also have anemia. If it is long standing, patient will have anemia, leukopenia, WBC count will go down, thrombocytopenia, platelet count will also go down, and hyperbilirubinemia because of the breakdown of RBCs. What happens if patient is not treated? If the patient is having Vivax, symptoms may subside for some weeks or months, then it will recur. Vivax will have a dormant phase which is known as hypnozoite. This dormant form of parasites will be deposited in the hepatocytes, and it may recur after some months or some weeks. But if it is falciparum, it is most lethal. The patient has to be treated abruptly. Otherwise, it may lead to cerebral malaria, and which may lead to death. Now let us see the life cycle of malarial parasites. You all know malarial parasites have host, the mosquito and the human host. We will be considering about the human host. The female Anopheles mosquito spits out, if we see the female Anopheles mosquito will spit out the sporozoites in the human blood when she sucks the blood, and these sporozoites will invade the our vascular system, and it will go directly to liver. In the liver, sporozoites will get converted to merozoites. In the hepatocytes, the sporozoites will get converted to merozoites. This matured form of merozoites will again get released from liver and will again invade our vascular system. In the vascular system, this merozoites will get converted to trophozoites. Right? These are trophozoites, and this merozoites again, when they are enough in number, they will again rupture from RBC and will invade another RBC. Then some of the merozoites will get converted to gametocytes. This gametocyte is a sexual form that can be taken up by another female Anopheles mosquito, and this life cycle in their salivary gland and their GIT will carry out, and it will again get converted to sporozoite, which can infect another person. This is the life cycle of malarial parasite in human host and mosquito host. Now if we see the friends, focus on this figure, what happens? If we see the actions of anti-malarial drugs, first, what is the sequence? Well, infected mosquito injects sporozoites. This is female Anopheles mosquito that spits out sporozoites in the human blood. That is the first step. After that, it invades liver. So sporozoites migrate to liver where they form merozoites. If we, this is known as exoerythrocytic form. If we stop this stage, then this sporozoite will not get converted to merozoites. But when the mosquito bites, we never know that which Anopheles has entered sporozoites in our body. Right? Then merozoites are released and invade blood cells. This is the stage when when the red blood cells are invaded. This merozoites get converted to again trophozoites, and there will be red blood cell lysis. This is the stage when patient gets fever and chills. This is erythrocytic phase, and drugs acting against erythrocytic phase are chloroquine, quinine, mefloquine, primaquine, etc. This is actually the clinical symptoms phase. Then rupture of red blood cells release merozoites which can infect other red blood cells. And then there will be conversion of some merozoites will get converted to sexual form, that is gametocytes, and this gametocyte will be taken up by another female mosquito and which can infect another individual. So we have to stop this phase also by giving drugs effective against gametocytic form, that is primaquine. So primaquine can be considered for the radical cure. Okay, now if we classify the drugs which are helpful for clinical cure, chloroquine, tetracycline, artemisinin based combination therapy, quinine, mefloquine, clindamycin, these are the drugs for clinical cure. For radical cure, chloroquine, primaquine, these are the chief drugs. And for prophylaxis, chloroquine, doxycycline and tetracycline. So you can say chloroquine can be considered for all phases and it is considered as the chief drug. Okay, we have seen that clinical cure and suppressive cure, chloroquine, quinine, these are the first line drugs. Chloroquine, quinine, mefloquine and artemisinin. Second line drugs are proguanil, pyrimethamine sulfadoxine combination, tetracyclines. These drugs are thought when the chloroquine or quinine is either resistant or not tolerable. What do they do? These drugs kill the erythrocytic stage and terminate the clinical attacks. So they are useful for clinical cure, and they are also capable of for total elimination of the parasite by repeated suppressive cure. That's why they are known as drugs for suppressive cure as well. Then some drugs are for radical cure. Chloroquine, primaquine, proguanil and pyrimethamine sulfadoxine combination. These drugs inhibit the growth of parasite in the exoerythrocytic phase, that means in the liver. So they prevent the initiation of erythrocytic phase, and fever and further transmission also is prevented. Gametocytocidal drugs, the drugs which are having for radical cure, they have gametocytocidal and hypnocytocidal also action. They destroy the sexual stages, so prevent this transmission to other mosquito. Primaquine can inhibit the transmission of or gametocytes of P. falciparum. Chloroquine and quinine can cause inhibition of gametocytes of vivax. Hypnozoitocidal, which can prevent relapse. These drugs kill the hypnozoites, that means dormant hepatic phase after primary infection, especially of Vivax. Primaquine and pyrimethamine are hypnozoitocidal also. Okay, that means drugs which can be useful for clinical cure and for radical cure. Now let us see detail of all drugs. Chloroquine, as we have seen, that is the chief drug which can be effective for clinical cure, for radical cure and for prophylactic also. It belongs to 4-aminoquinoline derivative, chloroquine, amodiaquine and hydroxychloroquine. They are considered as, if chemical structure we consider, that means they are 4-aminoquinoline derivatives. Chloroquine is the chief drug that is highly effective against erythrocytic forms of P. vivax and sensitive strains of P. falciparum. Mind well, friends, many of the falciparum is resistant to chloroquine. Plus gametocytes of vivax and malaria. It is claimed and it is seen the experience that chloroquine quickly controls parasitemia and all clinical symptoms within a day. Immediately after taking loading dose of chloroquine, fever will subside and gradually headache and abdominal pain will also be subsided. What is the mechanism of action? How does it act? The mechanism of actions of chloroquine are many, but as a student of second MBBS, you must understand main three mechanisms. Chloroquine intercalates with the plasmodial DNA and interfere with the plasmodial nucleic acid synthesis. Nucleic acid synthesis is altered, that is one mechanism of action. Another is when parasites are invaded in RBC. As a nutrition, parasites digest hemoglobin and release hemin. Hemin is the excretory product. Hemoglobin is the nutrition of parasites when they are invaded in RBC. So this hemin can be considered as a receptor. That hemin combines with chloroquine and there will be formation of chloroquine hemin complex. This combination will release oxidative free radicals that will rupture plasmodial cell membrane and also RBCs will also be lysed. That is another and main important mechanism of action. Another important mechanism of action is chloroquine is an alkaloidal substance. It's a basic substance. It gets concentrated in the acidic parasitic vacuoles or vesicles and increases pH by interfering with the metabolic functions of parasite will be altered and they will get lysed or they will die. The parasites will die. Now if we look to the dosage, friends, usually you as a student of second MBBS, you need not have to remember or all doses of all drugs, but friend, I strongly say this is very frequently asked in Viva or in exam, dosage and drug therapy of malaria. So you need to know and you should be remembering the dosage of chloroquine. For acute attack, Chloroquine is given for acute attack and for prophylaxis as well. For clinical cure for acute attack, conventional therapy, initially what was given, that is conventional therapy. And that is for chloroquine sensitive, non-complicated cases. That means those patients who can tolerate oral dose, that they are considered as non-complicated cases. Chloroquine can be given orally in the form of tablets. Mind well, this is conventional therapy. જૂના જમાનામાં આ રીતે અપાતું, હવે બદલાઈ ગઈ છે, આપણે એ પણ જોશું. Loading dose 600 milligram base. Chloroquine is available in 150 milligram base. That means 600 milligram, 4 tablets. Stat. Of course, not on empty stomach, with food. That is given on day 1. After 6 hours of this 4 tablets, another 2 tablets. That means 300 milligram. આ 4 પહેલા આપી દેવાની તરત જ, પછી 6 કલાક પછી 2. That is given on day 1. On day 2, બીજી 2 ગોળી. બરાબર? સવાર સાંજ પણ લઈ શકાય. If patient can tolerate orally બંને સાથે, તો 2 tablets. And day 3, these 3 tablets. બરાબર? આ 4 સૌથી પહેલા, પછી 6 કલાક પછી આ 2, અને એના પછી day 2 આ 2, અને day 3 આ 2. Along with paracetamol. Symptomatic management as well. બરાબર? Because patient is having fever. આપણે મેલેરિયાની ટ્રીટમેન્ટ આપીએ છીએ. સિમ્પટમ્સ, મેઇન સિમ્પટમ ઇઝ ફીવર વિથ ચિલ્સ. એટલે ફીવરને ટ્રીટ કરવાનું અને વોમિટિંગ, મેટોક્લોપ્રોમાઇડ પણ આપી દેવાની. Whenever you are asked the drug therapy of malaria, if you write only about chloroquine or any of the artemisinin derivative or quinine without writing paracetamol and metoclopramide, it is incomplete. You may lose your marks. તમને આના માર્ક્સ મળે, પણ પેરાસિટામોલ પેશન્ટને તમે ખાલી આ આપો, એનાથી એની ફીવર અને વોમિટિંગ નહીં જાય. નાના બચ્ચાઓમાં કઈ રીતે આપવાનું? કન્વેન્શનલ થેરાપી. Chloroquine sensitive and non-complicated cases. Syrups of chloroquine are available. So 20 ml stat, that means 5 teaspoon. 4 teaspoon. એમાં 5 ml આવે. બરાબર? તો આવા 20 ml stat 4 ચમચી એક સાથે. Then 10 ml. That means 5 ml ની 2 for next 3 days. એમાં 5 ml સવારે અને 5 ml સાંજે પણ કરી શકાય. But that is 10 ml OD for next 3 days along with paracetamol syrup and metoclopramide syrup. Nowadays આટલી બધી એક સાથે ટેબ્લેટ્સ કોઈ લેતું નથી, એનાથી સિવિયર વોમિટિંગ થાય છે, સિવિયર એસિડિટી થાય છે. એટલે what we have done is, પહેલા આપણે આપતા હતા 150 મિલીગ્રામ બેઝ, પણ એની એક હારે 4 ટેબ્લેટ આપવી પડતી હતી. હવે થોડુંક ચીટિંગ આપણે કરીએ. ચીટિંગ ઇન ધ સેન્સ, ડોઝ વધારીએ છીએ પણ ટેબ્લેટની નંબર ઘટાડી દઈએ. લોડિંગ ડોઝ 1000 milligram, 1 gram, 500. This is known as double strength Lariago. બરાબર? That contains 500 milligram એક ટેબ્લેટમાં. એટલે આપણે આપવાનું 1000 milligram અથવા 1 gram stat on day 1, 2 tablets with food. After 6 hours, another 1 tablet only. આપણે આટલી બધી નથી લેવી, કાંઈ નહીં. પહેલા 2 ગોળી લો, પછી 6 કલાક પછી એક જ ગોળી લેવાની છે, અને પછી ડે 3 એ પણ એક ગોળી 24 hours પછી, અને ડે 3 પણ એક ગોળી. So total 5 tablet નો જ કોર્સ છે. We have increased the strength, but we have decreased the number of tablets. This gives more compliance to the patient and it gives faster relief because we have increased the dose of the tablet, strength of the tablet. Okay, that was about non-complicated cases. Chloroquine sensitive but complicated cases. That means those patients who cannot tolerate oral chloroquine therapy, Chloroquine non-tolerant cases. They cannot tolerate oral therapy. Patients are having severe profuse vomiting. They can't tolerate even a single dose of chloroquine. For them, parenteral therapy is available. Chloroquine injection can be given intramuscularly, 10 ml IM stet. 6 hours later, 5 ml injection intramuscularly, 5 ml IM OD for next 2 days. Right? So this is the therapy for those patients who cannot tolerate oral chloroquine therapy. For children, we can give 5 milligram per kilogram according to their weight to weight. For prophylaxis, that was for clinical cure. For prophylaxis, chloroquine is given 300 milligram base. That means for prophylaxis, we are not giving conventional therapy or higher dose. 150 milligram વાળી જ આપવાની. 2 tablets once every week. વીકમાં 2 ગોળી એક જ વખત. But this should be started at least 2 weeks prior to the visit to the endemic zone. That should be continued during the stay, and that should be continued after 8 weeks for 2 months after leaving the endemic zone. That means for whom this prophylaxis is useful, for those patients who are coming from outside India or outside the zone, right? Someone is coming from America or Canada where malaria is not that prevalent. Those patients, if they are coming to India, they should start at least 2 weeks prior 2 tablets of chloroquine on one day of the week. Say for example, if they have taken on Thursday, every Thursday 2 tablets they have to take. They should take that 2 tablets every week till they stay in India, and when they leave India, at least for 2 months, same 2 tablets should be continued. Now, side effects of chloroquine. If they are given orally, obviously your favorite side effects, GIT symptoms, nausea, vomiting and abdominal pain. Chloroquine will have profuse severe vomiting. Visual disturbances, because chloroquine will get concentrated in the aqueous humor also. So patient will have visual disturbances. Headache because of visual disturbances. Pruritus, sometimes patient gets uncontrolled itching after chloroquine therapy. This is the petechial rashes can be seen on patient's skin after chloroquine therapy. If they are given parenterally, what are the side effects? Hypotension, cardiac depression, arrhythmias. Children may get convulsions. And mind well, co-administration with mefloquine or amiodarone will add on to these side effects. So combination of chloroquine and mefloquine is dangerous. Will have more, especially mefloquine and chloroquine by parenteral route, will have more dangerous cardiac side effects. On prolonged use, what happens? If chloroquine is used for longer period of time, for rheumatoid arthritis, it is given in higher dose. Patient will complain of loss of vision because of retinal damage or retinal detachment. Patient will develop corneal deposits that will alter the vision, which may be reversible on early discontinuation. If patient complains that he is not able to read properly, and if we discontinue chloroquine, then patient's this corneal deposit will be reversible. Loss of hearing, rashes, photoallergy, mental disturbances and myopathies. These are the side effects seen if chloroquine is given for longer period of time. Now let us consider therapeutic uses. Of course, for acute malarial attack, for clinical cure, suppressive cure and prophylaxis, chloroquine is the main hero. Apart from malaria, chloroquine can be considered for rheumatoid arthritis, but here we have to give in very high dose. Extraintestinal hepatic amoebiasis. You might have learnt amoebiasis. For the treatment of amoebiasis, intestinal amoebiasis, the treatment is with metronidazole, tinidazole. But if patient has developed hepatic amoebiasis, chloroquine can be added so that it will get concentrated in hepatocytes and help in eradicating the parasites from hepatocytes. Lepra reactions. You will be learning this lepra reactions. That is the side effect of Dapsone, and that is treated with in leprosy. Patient is having leprosy and patient is treated with Dapsone. Patient will have lepra reaction and that is treated with chloroquine. Chikungunya and some of the collagen disorders like discoid lupus erythematosus. Apart from malaria, these all are considered as extra malarial uses of chloroquine. Mind well, friends, this can be asked in short question as well as in viva. That chief use of chloroquine is malaria, but apart from malaria, where else can we use chloroquine? So these are the uses of chloroquine. And of course, you might be remembering hydroxychloroquine nowadays has got uh, wide acceptance for the treatment of COVID-19 as well. Now we move on to second line drugs, that is dihydrofolate reductase inhibitors, that is pyrimethamine. I hope you remember what is dihydrofolate reductase inhibitors do. They inhibit the sequential, they provide the sequential block and inhibit the folic acid synthesis. Mechanism of action of pyrimethamine, that plasmodial dihydrofolic acid gets converted to tetrahydrofolic acid that is required for the synthesis of nucleoside and amino acid, but this is with the help of dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and pyrimethamine inhibit this dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, so conversion of dihydrofolic acid to tetrahydrofolic acid is blocked. So amino acid and this folic acid synthesis of parasites will be blocked. This is the mechanism of action of pyrimethamine. Sulfadoxine pyrimethamine will have much more sequential block and much more synergistic effect. How that we know that para-aminobenzoic acid gets converted to dihydrofolic acid, that will get converted to tetrahydrofolic acid, and sulfadoxine will inhibit this conversion PABA to dihydrofolic acid, and pyrimethamine will inhibit dihydrofolic to tetrahydrofolic acid conversion. So that will have sequential block. So it is obviously synergistic. That will delay the resistance as well. Therapeutic uses of pyrimethamine for acute malarial attack, for clinical cure. It is always given in fixed dose combination. FDC is available, pyrimethamine 25 mg and sulfadoxine 500 mg. 3 tablets orally, single dose, available as a kit. રોજ રાત્રે એક જ વખત લેવાની, 3 ટેબ્લેટ એક સાથે. Available in combination FDC. For children, infants below 1 year, 1/4 tablet can be given. 1 to 3 years, half tablet can be given of combination. 4 to 8 years, 1 tablet can be given, and up to 14 years, 2 tablets of this combination kit can be given. Pyrimethamine 12.5 mg and Dapsone 100 mg is also available. Only pyrimethamine is used for toxoplasmosis. 100 to 200 mg once a day for 4 to 5. Proguanil is another second line drug. That's a prog drug from the biguanide derivative. Proguanil gets converted to a active metabolite, that is a cyclic triazine compound, gets converted into a cyclic triazine compound that will inhibit dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and same, it will inhibit folic acid synthesis. It is used for long time prophylaxis. For adults, 200 mg daily orally during exposure. Those patients who are living in that frequently getting malarial zone, that can be given for continue for 6 weeks after the exposure. And for children on weight to weight basis, once a week tablet will give for very long term prophylaxis. But ADR's side effects of proguanil are many: cutaneous lesions, skin rashes, erythema, SJ syndrome, urticaria, hemolytic disorders like megaloblastic anemia and agranulocytosis. It's not safe during pregnancy and lactation and children below 2 years. From 4 aminoquinoline derivative we have discussed, then we will move on to 8 aminoquinoline derivatives. That is primaquine. Primaquine gets converted to active metabolite, and that active metabolite will release oxidative free radicals that will damage to RBC, especially those RBCs which are having parasites. So RBC and parasites both will get ruptured, and patient will have hemolysis, and it will result into parasitic death. But toxicity is mild to moderate abdominal cramps, anemia, cyanosis, leukocytosis, rarely agranulocytosis or granulocytopenia, and it is contraindicated in G6PD deficient patients because the mechanism of action of primaquine is to cause hemolysis. So it may lead to hemolytic anemia, and those patients who are having G6PD deficiency, friends will be knowing what is the role of G6PD enzyme. It will provide a protective barrier against RBCs. When a patient is infected, RBC is infected or invaded with parasites, that means the barrier is broken. The outer layer is broken, right? That outer layer is giving protection to RBCs. But if parasitic uh, invasion is there, they will rupture RBC and that will enter into the RBC by breaking those parasitic the protective layers. Those patients who are having G6PD deficiency, they don't have that protective layer. Now, chloroquine and primaquine like drugs, what do? They identify the RBCs whose this protective layer is broken. Those RBC will only be hemolyzed. But what if none of the RBC is having that protective layer? All RBCs will be hemolyzed. So, in G6PD deficient patients, the protective layer will not be there. That's why it will lead to hemolytic anemia. So these drugs, hemolytic drugs, will cause severe hemolysis, right? If we give primaquine, we have to be watchful for unexplained hematuria. Now, what is the use of primaquine? For radical cure, it can be given into the dose of 15 mg for Vivex and 45 mg for falciparum. After completion of chloroquine therapy, in case of Vivex malaria, for adults we have to give 1 tablet daily for 14 days. And for falciparum malaria, on the second day of chloroquine therapy, 45 mg single dose can be given. For single dose, only 1 tablet of 45 mg. Whereas in case of Vivex, we have to give 1 tablet daily for 14 days. Right? So that is all for primaquine. Now we move on to the oldest drug of malaria, that is Cinchona alkaloid. Initially, that was the Cinchona bark that was identified as treatment for malaria. That is Cinchona alkaloid is quinine. This can be considered as the oldest drug. The mechanism of action is, it's a weak base. It gets concentrated into the acidic vacuoles of parasites, and there will be pH change. There will be alteration into the pH of parasitic metabolism. So there will be death of parasites, plus this change in pH will not convert heme into hemozoin. So, not converted heme will be considered as the receptor of quinine. There will be heme quinine complex. Usually what happens in the routine pH, the heme gets converted to hemozoin, but with the altered pH, this heme will not be converted to hemozoin, and this heme will combine with quinine and will release oxidative free radicals, and that will damage parasitic membrane and will cause parasitic lysis. This is the mechanism of action. It's a weak base. It gets concentrated into the acidic vacuoles of parasites. There will be change in pH, alteration into the pH. So heme will not be converted to hemozoin, and this unconverted heme will be receptor for quinine. So heme quinine complex will be formed, and that will release oxidative free radicals that will damage parasitic membrane and will cause parasitic lysis. Therapeutic uses of quinine for oral therapy, in the clinical cure, we have to give 600 milligram times a day for 7 to 10 days in case of adults. In children, on weight to weight basis, 25 milligram per kilogram per day in divided doses 3 times a day for 7 days. In case of cerebral malaria and severe cases, we have to give loading dose of quinine, that is 20 milligram per kilogram dissolved in 500 ml of normal saline over 4 hours, followed by 10 milligram per 500 ml for 4 hours at 8 hours interval. Those patients who are having cerebral malaria, we can't wait for chloroquine and we have to give quinine drip. That is 20 milligram initially is dissolved in 500 ml. That should be given over a period of 4 hours. After this drip, we have to give 10 milligram in a pint of 500 ml, and that can be given for 4 hours at 8 hours interval. Till patient regains consciousness. Once the patient gains consciousness, then we have to start oral therapy for this is 600 milligram 3 times a day for 7 to 10 days. Mind well, all these therapy are given along with symptomatic cure with paracetamol. Side effects of quinine: repeated administration and at therapeutic dose may lead to synchronism. The side effect is known as synchronism. That is characterized by nausea, tinnitus, headache, and visual disturbances. On more prolonged administration of very large doses, patient may have complaints of nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and diarrhea, and rashes, perspiration, angioedema, headache, fever, excitement, and delirium. The patient may have hypotension, hypothermia, hypoglycemia, and patient may develop respiratory failure. That respiratory failure patient can lead to coma and death. So synchronism is a very dangerous side effect. That's why quinine is considered as the second line drug. If patient cannot tolerate chloroquine or patient is resistant to chloroquine, then only we have to think about quinine. Other side effects: asthma, transient ventricular arrhythmias, muscular paralysis. Friends, if you remember, quinine is directly acting skeletal muscle relaxant along with dantrolene. Dantrolene and quinine, these are skeletal muscle relaxant drugs. So muscular paralysis, especially in myasthenia patients, and the safety during pregnancy is still a query. Quinine can be used for malaria, but apart from malaria, where else quinine can be thought of? Nocturnal muscle cramps, because it is having muscular relaxant property. So 300 milligram at night is useful for patients who are complaining nocturnal muscle cramps because of calcium deficiency. For varicose vein, if it is claimed that if we inject quinine with urethane into the varicose vein mass, the patient will be treated. And as a contraceptive, it's a spermicidal. So in vaginal creams, quinine can be added. So these are considered as extra malarial uses of quinine. Apart from quinine, another drug is mefloquine. Mefloquine structurally resembles quinine. So all mechanism of action is similar to quinine. Therapeutic uses for prophylaxis and treatment of P. falciparum, mefloquine can be thought of if especially patient is having chloroquine resistance and multi-drug resistance. For prophylaxis, adults and children above 45 kg, one tablet 250 mg weekly, same as chloroquine. Like it should be started 2 weeks prior, should be continued one tablet weekly till the patient stays in the endemic zone and for 8 weeks after he leaves the endemic zone. And for children, as per the weight to weight basis, we can give mefloquine tablet orally. For chloroquine resistant and quinine contraindicated cases and for multi-drug resistant P. falciparum cases, mefloquine can be thought of 15 to 25 milligram per kilogram or 750 to 1000 milligram single dose orally can be given, or 1250 to 1500 milligram single dose in or 2 to 3 divided doses. This is useful for chloroquine resistant or quinine contraindicated cases for multi-drug resistant P. falciparum. Adverse effects of mefloquine, of course, nausea and vomiting and abdominal pain, dizziness, ataxia, headache, visual disturbances, auditory disturbances can be seen. It's contraindicated in pregnancy, particularly first trimester and lactation, and children below 15 kg, and patient of epilepsy. These are the contraindications. You may be asked about contraindications of mefloquine. Friends, nowadays antibiotics are also thought about. Tetracycline and clindamycin. They are considered as weak erythrocytic sesonticidal drugs. Their mechanism of action is they inhibit protein synthesis. If you remember our macrolide and tetracycline lecture, their mechanism of action is on 30S and 50S ribosome and they inhibit protein synthesis. So they bind to 50S subunit and inhibit transpeptidation. So chain elongation will be stopped. They inhibit chain elongation. They are responsible for delayed death of parasite because of the inhibition of protein translation. This can be considered as pharmacological basis of tetracycline, doxycycline and clindamycin. Tetracycline and doxycycline and clindamycin, they are active on all plasmoidal species including chloroquine, mefloquine, sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine combination resistant P. falciparum. This is the very important note that you have to note it down, that all plasmoidal species including multi-drug resistant P. falciparum are treated with tetracycline, doxycycline and clindamycin. But many times they have to be given in combination with either quinine or artemisinin therapy. They can be used with quinine in case of chloroquine resistant falciparum or tetracycline 250 mg 4 times a day or doxycycline 100 mg OD can be given prophylactically in place of chloroquine. Doxy 200 mg plus artesunates can be given for mefloquine, chloroquine and multi-drug resistant species. And especially clindamycin can be used for pregnant ladies and children. Of course, chloroquine and quinine, chloroquine is safe during pregnancy, quinine is query in pregnancy, but clindamycin can be used for pregnant ladies and children safely. So if we summarize this lecture, we have seen the clinical features of malaria, classification of drugs which are most useful for malaria in case of prophylaxis, clinical cure and radical cure, salient aspects of conventional drugs. So up to this we have discussed in this part 1 lecture. In next lecture, we will be considering about newer antimalarials, recent updates and medical management of various types of malaria. So that's all about malaria part 1. Thank you.